don't think too much has changed from the spring. So I think that's the biggest thing, just, coming in and day out and doing the same things.
More consistent with what in particular?
Just everything, playing physical, blocking, catching the ball, running well, just, the game as a whole. I think that's part of consistent. You can't do one thing good one day and one good thing good the next day.
I know you talked a lot about that maybe like a year ago or a year and a half ago, that was a big goal of yours. Was that something that just took some time for you to get, or was that something where last year you didn't quite meet what you wanted?
Yeah, probably just didn't do as well as I wanted to on it. But like you said, it's been something that's been on my mind, so it took a lot of time to make sure that I tried to nip that in the bud.
Back in the spring, you talked about the unselfishness of the room, and that's got to be tough in a position that really kind of leans itself to being a very selfish position in a way. Is that difficult?
No, not really. Because, I haven't really been on any teams since high school where it's just dominated by one guy. It's always going to be a rotation, and then, like, the nature of the position itself anyway, we're doing so much for everyone else on the team just like any other position. We block just as much as linemen or tight ends, so it's kind of, in my opinion, hard to be selfish at this position.
How much of the refocus on all this is it's your last go-around here, it's the last chance?
That's part of it, but I don't think that I necessarily dwelled on it.
Hey, what's up, Henry?
Yeah, I don't know. It factors in there, but it's not like the overbearing thing for me.
Ty, Jay was saying, a couple other guys were saying, just condition-wise, Jay was complimenting, he said you're in a lot better condition. Can you kind of describe what you do? Did you change any routine, anything like that?
Not really. I figured if I was going to be doing this stuff, I was going to try and win it. And, if you got to push yourself physically, you don't really have a choice to get in better. You have to get in better shape or you pass out, one of the two.
So, is there anything that, I guess, where you noticed where, okay, you're making gains, you could definitely tell that you were in better shape?
It's hard to say during conditioning because the goal is to get you tired. So they were, pretty successful at that all summer. But I feel better now. Certain situations where I know they're taxing situations, and I come out and I don't feel as tired as I normally would. So I think I can see it more on the back end and not as much, up front like I can tell during summer conditioning.
Wilton said he lost 23 pounds. Does that show up? You notice a difference in him?
In him? Yeah.
Where does he look different?
I think if anybody lost 20 pounds, they'd look a little bit different in their uniform, a little bit lighter on their feet, playing well. So it was good for him.
Can you feel the excitement building, getting close to game week?
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's excitement, but I think at the same time, it's like you can feel people start to get more focused because you realize, all right, we don't have 20 more practices. There's a finite amount of time left, and we can't be making mistakes. We got to dial in because, Florida's doing the same thing as us. They want to beat us bad, so we got to come prepared.
How's ball security been among the backs?
Good. I would say probably the best position group on the field, but I'm a little biased. But I know we're really strict on it, and I think we understand that if we don't have the ball, we can't score. You can't score, you can't win. So that's pretty self-explanatory.
Where have you seen development from Chris and Kareem, given that that freshman to sophomore year jump is usually the biggest?
Chris, you can tell Chris has really been in his playbook a lot, and Kareem just seems more focused, making more plays, a lot more engaged. So I'm happy for both of them.
You talked about always going to be a rotation. Are you guys carving out kind of roles at all, or is right now it's?
That would be a question for Jay. I don't know.
Okay.
What have you learned from Jay Harbaugh, in his first year as running backs coach?
I think obviously he's a little bit different than Coach Wheaton. That's not a good or bad thing. They're different, but I also think that some of the things that he does makes us. It's not as much as. I want to say it the right way. I won't say it's not him coaching, but he'll make us talk through our own mistakes, or he'll ask us questions as to why we did something, so that way he can make his own coaching point, but at the same time you can talk yourself through it, and then you realize, well, this is why I did this, or this is why I didn't, this is what I should or should not have done. So I like that.
So I was just gonna ask, has that feedback helped you,
Yeah,
kind of
no, I like
verbalizing
it.
it?
Yeah, I
How,
mean,
how so?
I think that sometimes there could be situations on the field where, you know, this may have been your assignment, but you had to do this, and, you know, we can sit there and talk through it, and whether it be right or wrong, we're going to talk through it and, you know, come to a conclusion of, okay, I understand why you did it, but this is why you can or cannot. And I think not only for me, but I think for everybody else, that kind of gives you a better understanding of the playbook and the concepts of, you know, the schemes that we're trying to accomplish.
How's that line coming around its run
Good.
blockers?
They're good. They're ready to go. I mean, I got complete faith in them. They did a good job in the spring, and, you know, it's carried over now. And, you know, we've just done a lot of work in the playbook, a lot of practice and a lot of reps, and they look good, in my opinion.
Typically, pass pro is one of the last things to come to a back at this level. How much do you feel like you've grown there, and do you feel like you're at the top of your as good as you've been right now?
Well, I mean, I just know how I think we all know how Coach Harbaugh is. If you don't pass pro, you're not going to play. So, you know, that's obviously always a big focus. That's always on the top of the charts, you know, in the running back room, no matter who the coach has been, you know, anywhere I've been. And I think that it makes it a lot easier when you get a better understanding of the offense, because, you know, you understand what the line calls are going to be. You understand who's going where, and at that point it just becomes one-on-one. So.
You find yourself helping the younger guys with some of that right now?
Yeah, and I think part of that, you know, even just being able to help them helps me, because you learn through teaching in a way. So, you know, if I know something, they have a question on it, it just is almost like a refresher for myself to just go through it with them.
Did you happen to see Josh Rosen's comments about a week or so ago about football and school don't go together? Not commenting on that, but how hard is it to blend them and make it work?
I mean, everywhere I've been, I didn't really have a choice, so I don't know what it's like to live where, you know, you can say one and the other don't go together. But I mean, I understand that it is difficult, and from what I read, he has a pretty difficult major, so, you know, I'm not going to knock him. I'll give him credit for that, but it's just one of those things, you know what you signed up for.
Time for one or two questions, maybe more for Ty.
Ty, how is the prep kind of different? I mean, the first year was a submarine thing. Last year, still intense. This year, given the turnover, you know, circumstances, how is it different? Because you mentioned as it gets closer and closer, you find guys amping up a little bit.
I think it might be a little bit different, just because I won't say it's different because we're younger, but you see different guys in different roles now, so that you see that their preparation changing. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's all going to be the same. If you have to know your assignments, you have to know what you're doing. So the reps that you get become more precious. It's not like you can come in and mess up once and say, all right, I'll get it back later on in practice. You want every single rep to be right, and you can see guys kind of honing in and understanding that. I think we're 8 days away from going down to Dallas, so at this point, you need to know it. It's not really an option. There's not an option of knowing or not knowing or being confused. You got to know, because it's time to go.
What has Pep Hamilton brought to the passing game for the backs?
I would just say some of the concepts we have changed up a little bit, but I mean, overall, I think he's a really good addition. We've been doing some really good stuff just offensively across the board, not just with the backs. And I don't know, I like the energy he brings. He's a good teacher too. I think that some things that, if something's confusing to any of us, he will, slow everything down, thoroughly explain it, make sure we're all on the same page. And I think you can see it in the cohesiveness of the offense, whether it be ones, twos, or threes. Guys are on the same page for the most part, making plays.
You mentioned earlier that you really hadn't given much thought to this is your last camp, last season.
Right.
Are you doing that on purpose? Are you trying to avoid that conversation in your own mind, or is that something that you are thinking about?
I mean, not really. I could go out and get hurt on my first play against Florida and be done for the season. So, to me, it's not something I'm going to sit and dwell on, because ideally I would like to continue playing football after being in Michigan. So, and I don't know. Just to me, it's one of those things I don't really think about because, you know, if I'm lucky enough to make it to the next level, every season could be your last. So it's just one of those things. It ain't no sense in worrying about something I can't control.
All right, thank you for the time.
Thanks, Ty.
Dr. Lee Hudson.